Blah, y'all already know what it is. Your boy Yaakov. What it do? The outlet to reality, the holdest podcast in Vegas and Chicago. What up? This is the place where you want to hide from your drama or maybe hide from your baby mama. Aha, just kidding. But anyways, fans, thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. And today we have a very special guest. He is the host of Life is Great podcast. Give it up for Rabbi Wyne.
All right.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's an honor to have you. And I do want to say a small little quick story. So I met your son, Chemi, last year for Purim, and he's very nice. I got to say, there was a time, actually this year for Pesach, I didn't have a place to stay for Seder. All my friends went out of town, and I messaged Chemi. I said, look, I don't have anybody. If you know somebody who has an open door or extra space, please spread the word. And so what he said was, my place, I have, I think, over 100 people, but he said, I know somebody who'll be able to take you in. And very nice person. Can't get his name, but I got to say, Rabbi, you actually, you did a good job with your son. I got to be honest.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And so, Rabbi, real quick, I want to, so my fans to get to know you a little bit more. Tell us, were you born and raised in Vegas, and what made you become a rabbi?
Okay. So my story is the following. So I was actually born and raised in Edmonton, Canada, which is a pretty small Jewish community. It's, my father used to say that when he was growing up, there were 500,000 people in the city and 5,000 Jews, or there were 250,000 people growing in the city and 5,000 Jews. When I grew up in Edmonton, there were 500,000 people and 5,000 Jews. And now there's 1.2 million people and 5,000 Jews. And I actually am the first person to be born and raised in Edmonton, grew up in Edmonton, and become a rabbi. I hold that distinction. So the thing is that we, growing up, I was not Orthodox. I'm an Orthodox rabbi, but my family is very Jewish. Like a girl is boyish. We were Jewish. My grandparents were kind of religious, and one side of the family founded the conservative synagogue temple, and the other side of the family founded the Orthodox synagogue. And they were, the two synagogues when I grew up were they were located a block away from each other. And there was not a lot of difference between the two. I'm not sure if your listeners are aware that, in Orthodox synagogues, when we formal prayer service, you separate the men and the women. That was pretty much the only difference. In that synagogue, we did that. And the other synagogue, then it was mixed seating. When I was in high school, so I wanted to coach an NCAA basketball championship. And the reason I wanted to do that was because my father said, listen, you should always find something you love to do and then figure out a way to make a living. And one of the things, I always loved sports, and I had an innate desire to have a positive influence on people's lives. And I really felt that if you were in that kind of forum, then your words would be heard loud and clear in a very big way, and you'd have a lot of influence. I did not know the kind of influence I wanted to have on people, but I knew that I was created in this world to have a positive influence on people's lives and many people's lives. So, when I graduated high school, I'm about to go to university, and I had been to Israel a couple of years before and loved the place. When I went to Israel, I was 16, just a quick trip with my family. And I looked around the people and I said, I don't speak their language and I don't look like them. But somehow we're family. I didn't really get it. But so I thought, where would my parents send me for a free trip? And so I go, well, if I want to go to Israel for a couple months, they'll do that. So worked in the summer. And then I said, listen, I'd like to go to Israel for a couple months before starting university in January. So I went, they're okay with that. So I paid for the trip and I went, and I had a friend of mine who had become Orthodox. She was older than me by 2 years. She was doing her junior year abroad. at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And I would go and I'd spend Shabbat with them, her and her friends. And then I'd travel around the country during the week. And Aisha Torah did a program for the kids that were going to Hebrew University at that time. And it was around Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, it was around the high holidays. So I went on that program, and I was totally intrigued because I was starting to meet like these really smart, articulate rabbis. And it was just something it was exposed to that ever in my life. And then I said, listen, I'll go to yeshiva if I'll stay for a week. If I like it, I'll stay for longer. If not, then whatever, I'll leave. Yeshiva is a place where people learn about God. Yeshiva is a place that is based in Jerusalem. There's yeshivas all over the world, but it's a place where you learn Torah. And Aisha Torah was a specific kind of yeshiva developed for people that did not have strong Jewish backgrounds. So people really like me who knew they were Jewish, but didn't know the ins and outs of it, so to speak. So I go there, I meet these incredible rabbis and incredible people. And I was always like amazed at, ever since I was young, I always wanted to get married and have children, that kind of stuff. I always had that idea, but having a family unit. And I looked around and I remember in my 12th grade, sociology class, looking around, there were 32 people in the class, and literally 3 people in the class parents were not divorced. That's in Canada. It's like I look around, I'm saying, it was, how do you have a decent marriage, family relationship in Western society? It's just like the tide is so against you. Yet everyone I met that time I was in Jerusalem that was Orthodox, was religious, seemed to have a very good marriages and very functional families. And so that was incredibly impressive to me. That in combination with meeting these rabbis and learning all this stuff that I found absolutely fantastic. So now it comes to January 26th. December 26th of that year. And that's in 1984. And I call my father and I said, listen, I want you to defer university for me for another 6 months. He goes, what is going on? I said, listen, I know what it means to be a secular Jew, a Western Jew. I don't know what it means to be a Torah Jew. And I really feel I'm at a watershed moment in my life. At the time, I'm 18 years old. I just turned 18 years old. And I said, this could affect what I do for a living, who I marry, where I live. And I have some questions. I just want I want time to go through them properly. And he said, well, what are your questions? Like my dad wanted to know, what's in my head? So I go, listen, I've always believed in God. Believing in God is that's something that I've always had a very strong trust in God and faith in God. But I never really thought about until I went to yeshiva, is the Torah from God? Who wrote the Torah? Who wrote the Bible? It says that God wrote the Bible, but how do I know? And that was 3,300 years ago. So how do I know that it's the same Torah that was written 3,000 years ago that I have today? And how do I know that this body of Jewish tradition is actually authentic, that it's true, that it's, it didn't get changed over, 3,000 years? Is it relevant for me today? It's like my friend who I was, I stayed with during Shabbat when I first got to Israel. So we used to go out, we had a group of friends, we'd go out for pizza, in high school, and she kept kosher, which in her mind, Edmonton kosher meant no pepperoni on the cheese pizza. It didn't mean kosher cheese or kosher. It just, that's all it meant, right? and people would turn to me and say, well, why don't you keep kosher? And I'd say, well, I would. It's just not practical. I mean, seriously, Yaakov, how do you have a pizza without pepperoni on it? Seriously, that's not practical. Who would think of such a thing, right? Anyway, so I was never against anything, but I didn't know enough to appreciate the what and the how and the why and that kind of stuff. So at any rate, what I did was I made the decision. I said, listen, this is what's going through my head. And I want to take 6 months. I want to figure out if this is for me. My father said to me, that's the best decision you've ever made in your life. That's awesome. And I was already always a very happy person and grateful. And, I was in high school. I was I was an honor student, and I was an athlete, and I was the students union, and I was always doing stuff. That was never an issue. So it was just an issue of like, well, I got these things I want to figure out. So I spent the next 6 months, instead of just having fun going to classes and really enjoying yeshiva, I really put my nose to the grindstone and like learn this. Now, just so you should know, everyone in my class was much older than me. Everyone had already gotten their degrees, at least their undergraduate degrees. And there's an attorney in my class. There's a chiropractor in my class. All my friends are like literally 10 years, 5 to 10 years older than me. Whoa. And, but I'm like hanging with this. So I'm hanging with. And I decided at the end of that thing, I said, yes, I'm going to be an Orthodox Jew. Torah is true. There's God. He gave the Torah to the Jewish people. The mitzvahs are right. This is for me. I want to do this. So then I went back to Edmonton for the summer and I said, I'm going to go back to Ford University another year. And I said, I'm going to go back in the second year and I'm going to really go through a full calendar cycle learning Torah. So I know how to live as a Torah Jew. And it was in that time period where I came to the conclusion that my whole life is about positively influencing people. Like that's what my life's about. So I realized that Torah is so powerful that if you teach Torah, you're going to really affect people in a big way. So it was in that second year I decided actually I'm going to be a rabbi. And then I stayed in Jerusalem for another, 7.5 years and got married, that kind of stuff. So
wow,
that's my story.
Rabbi, I got to say, what a wonderful story. I really love it. It's very relatable. Like, a lot of people, especially growing up in a Jewish family, if it wasn't so religious, and sometimes it happens in life, right? But I feel like you found your journey to, get back on track. I feel like that's part of the journey and I love it. And Rabbi, I got to say, I heard that, one thing I heard that my friend always said is that, a doctor saves a life, right? And medically, right?
Yeah.
But a rabbi can save your soul.
Yeah, okay.
You like that, right? You like that, Rabbi? And
you see, you go to the next world, it's like if you were to see, we saw someone bleeding on the streets, to walk by and not help him, that would be cruel.
Yeah. But
if a person, you see someone who's spiritually, they're not connected with God and they're not connected with truth, I mean, that affects their eternity. Not only does that affect this world, but it affects the next world as well and all their generations. So, you think in those terms, it's like our obligation to help others connect with God, connect with Torah and truth is enormous.
Yeah, for sure, Rabbi. And also, like, I learned that, when you're about to take your final test to be a rabbi, I heard it's an 8-hour course, 8 hours verbal test. And I heard that if you fail, you have to wait another 4 years to take the test.
Well, there are different programs and different things, but I will tell you that there was one of the tests that I had to do which was a verbal test, was during 1991 during the Gulf War in Jerusalem, and we all had to go to this particular rabbi. The class, there's about 20 guys in the class, and we had to go to a very big rabbi, a guy's like in his 80s in Jerusalem, and there, the thing was during the Gulf War. Iraq, Saddam Hussein would send over these Scud missiles to Jerusalem, and the siren would go, and when the siren would go, everyone would go into the sealed rooms, and they would tape up the rooms in order to, because not only were they afraid of explosions, but they were afraid that Saddam Hussein was going to send gas into Jerusalem. So it was a beautiful January evening. It was like remarkably warm. It was like, maybe 65 degrees or whatever. And the windows were open, and we're in this apartment, and, it's in Hebrew. So Hebrew is not my first language, and it's different, reading the text and then, putting your head and speaking it out. Like, they're just two different skills. So, everything's talking that way. And in the middle of this exam, the sirens go off, and this rabbi, he's just asking us questions and expecting us to stand. We're just answering. And you see like his whole family picks up like they were, and they go in the room and you hear them taping up the room. And they're like doing this, and it's right. He's just asking these questions. It's a serious. Yeah.
Wow.
It takes a long time. It's thank God. It's an honor. I feel so fortunate to have been able to spend the time that I had in Jerusalem studying and that kind of stuff. So
I love it, Rabbi. I love it, Rabbi. Great story. And I want to ask you one last two questions. Is what made you start your podcast? Life
okay,
is great.
so it really is all in the same form in terms of why I became a rabbi. It's just an extension of that, in the respect that I've been in Las Vegas 28 years, and over the years I had a radio show for many, many years. Most of the years I've been here, I had a radio show, weekly for probably almost 20 years of the 28. For several years, I had a television program. We'd send out, in the old days, you send out faxes to thousands of people. We'd send out emails, and little videos. I have a very large YouTube channel with a lot of videos, hundreds of hours of videos. And starting the Life is Great podcast. I wrote the book, Life is Great. Oh, wait, look. Let me show you. See, here it is. Life is Great.
Oh,
it's a
wow.
great book. It's a great book. So the idea is that it was just another angle of like, how do we reach people, reaching a different demographic, different group? I mean, the Almighty sends, people find you, whoever finds you, finds you. But that's really all it's about. It's just about another way of sharing Torah, connecting with people. And that's what it is.
I love it, Rabbi. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to share one last question. So I know this week was about Pinchas, the Parsha. A very interesting story because a lot of things are going on during this time. There's a time with the five sisters, how they were telling Moshe Rabbeinu that, we don't have a father, we don't have a brother, so the inheritance should belong to us. And it said that Moshe knew the answer, but he wanted to, ask Hashem if this is, correct. I heard something that the reason why Moshe forgot that moment was because it's to make him humble. Because sometimes if we know all the answers, right, we can feel a little too, oh, I know it all. But I feel like Moshe is one of the best examples how humble he was in every situation, which is beautiful.
Right.
And Rabbi, what can you share with us about this parsha?
So you're talking about the Daughters of Slughorn. That really is a wonderful, wonderful thing here. So it's interesting. I don't know if that was the reason, so to speak, that where God, took his knowledge of that particular Jewish law and pulled it away in order to make him humble and knock him down a peg. I don't know if that was the reason, but it certainly is a result of the event. And I think that one thing that we should always be aware of is that as God runs the world in every aspect. So when events happen to us, we should always be asking ourselves, what do I think Hashem is teaching me? What is the message personally that Hashem is sending to me? Now, sometimes we'll be able to get it. Sometimes we won't. But the Almighty is a very articulate teacher. And if I'm approaching that by like the way you're saying is like, why did Moshe forget the halacha? Why did he forget the law at the time? Okay, it made him humble. Okay, that might be a result of it. So we have to think that way as well. We have to think like everything that happens, what is the reason? What's the message for me? And by the way, sometimes you can see many different messages. There's several different, God is speaking in a different way, at different times. So another message from this particular thing is that, again, initially when they spoke about the Torah discussed the laws of inheritance. So, the daughters were not on the list of inheritors of the land of Israel. Why not? Well, the reason why not is because in order to get a piece of land of Israel, you have to go to war to fight for it. And we're going to talk about that in this upcoming parsha. How, you want a piece of land of Israel, you got to go to fight. Women were not part of the army, so they would not fight for it. So the fact that it went all the way to God, and then God said, no, 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 these women, they do get inheritance in the land of Israel if they don't have a husband or a father, husband, whatnot. So that's to teach us that what a woman does as part of the Jewish people is no less important than what a man does. The man goes, he's going to go to war and he's going to fight for it. What's the woman doing? The woman is building a home, raising children, so the man can come back from war and he can have a life. And that one should be very, very careful to understand that everybody has roles, and every human being has a role. We all have a mission or purpose here. And it's not that your mission and purpose is more important than another's. If we were looking at a football team, you got 11 guys on the field, you need a really great quarterback to win a Super Bowl. But you also need a great right guard. Because you know what? If in your offensive line, you got three guys, you got four or five guys that are great, and you got one guy who is a high school caliber, offensive lineman. You know what? You're not winning any Super Bowl. It's not happening. Right. You need good in every position. Everyone has a different role, and you can't take Tom Brady. You can't put him play. You can't best quarterback ever. You can't have him play. Left tackle. You're not going to win that way. It's not going to happen. You can't even put him as running back or as receiver. You can't do it. Everyone has a role. Everyone has a placement. And I think that's one of the other lessons that we can learn from this particular this story of the Daughters of Slughorn, saying that, yeah, women also inherit and can get the land of Israel. So
I love it, Rabbi. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I'm going to wrap it up, guys. This is the Outlet to Reality, the holdest podcast in Vegas and Chicago every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching! And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the Outlet to Reality. TikTok is at Yaakov28, and my Snapchat is Take One Pass It. And Rabbi, where can my fans find you?
Okay, so please, for sure, you can go to Life is Great. Listen, you can always email me with any questions, thoughts at Rabbi Wyne at Gmail. So it's RABBIYITZWYNE at Gmail. And of course, if you go on to Amazon, you can get this great book called Life is Great.